Every semester I receive dozens of emails from students asking me to compute their grade. This happens regardless of whether they have all their grades accessible, the level of the class, how smart the student is. Computing your grade is a relatively simple task once you know how to do it, but so few students are ever taught. Knowing how to compute your grade gives you an advantage as a student. It allows you to make better informed decisions on where to spend your valuable time. It gives you independence from your instructor, who may or may not give you an accurate grade in a timely manner. It gives you independence from a flawed gradebook average. Before you start computing your average, you need to answer a few questions that are specific to your school and your class. First, where do I find the course's grading policy? Where do you find the grades for individual assignments? Are they available online? Are they graded by paper and pencil and returned to you? Do you need to seek out the Oracle at Delphi? Because for some classes it seems like you do. What range of grades equates to an A? For that matter, are there A pluses or A minuses? I've had classes that included A minus as a possible final grade and was unpleasantly surprised by this fact. It does affect your GPA. The answer to many of those questions is in the syllabus. The syllabus is often an all too large document with legal jargon mixed in with a few pieces of interesting and useful information. Most students hear about the syllabus on the first day of class, at most, and then forget its existence. However, this is one area where you need that information. Typically, the syllabus includes a section on grading policy. This section will usually include the different categories of assignments like homework, tests, papers, and so on, as well as their weight or the percentage of your grade they represent. There should be information on letter grade ranges and possible information on how the instructor deals with rounding. If any of this information is missing, you should ask your instructor. If it's after the first day, I'd recommend an email or utilizing your instructor's office hours. I'd also recommend letting the instructor know that you can't find it in the syllabus. All too often, instructors' initial response may be, it's in the syllabus. Here we have a portion of the grading section on one of my syllabi. I've included the assignment categories, weights, and grading scales all in one table right at the head, right at the top. Other instructors may have this information in section headings or in paragraphs. You may need to do a little reading to find what you need. Later in this section, I have my policies on makeup assignments and extra credit. It won't affect your current grade, but it's good to know what your options are should your grade be lower than you want. For this class, I have 3 categories. Homework is 25% of your grade, tests and projects are 50% of your grade, and the final exam is 25% of your grade. Now that we have the course information, we need to find your grades. Depending on how your class is set up, you may need to compute the average for each category, or that may be done for you already, say in an online gradebook. Typically, these use the mean of a collection of items, so you would add up the grades, possibly dropping the lower grade or 2, and dividing by the number of items you just added. Next, you're going to multiply each category mean by its category weight. We'll see an example of this in a moment. For readability, I always compute my category means as a number between 0 and 100, and my category weights as a decimal between 0 and 1. So if I have a 75 average in homework, and homework is worth 25% of my grade, I would multiply 75 times 0.25. Next, I'm going to add up each of these products. This grade will probably look a little low, but don't worry, because odds are you'll have some categories that don't have any grades, especially if your course has a final exam. We're going to adjust for that in just a moment. Separately, I'm going to add up the weights for just the categories for which I have an average. So let's say homework and tests, but not the final. Finally, I'm going to divide the sum from step 3 by the sum from step 4. This step right here adjusts your grade to ignore any missing categories like a final exam. Let's see an example of this in action. I looked through my class's online gradebook and found that I have a mean of 87.5 on my homework, and homework is worth 25% of my grade. That came from the syllabus. So I multiply 87.5 by 0.25, and I get 21.875. Now, Note that I've ignored any homework assignments that aren't due yet in this average. If you're getting this average out of a grade book, check to see if it is. Early in the semester, you may want to do a quick average just to check and see how reliable are the averages in your grade book. I didn't do as well on tests as on the homework. I earned a 76% average, with tests making up 50% of my grade. So I'm going to multiply 76 by 0.50, and this gives me 38. We haven't taken the final yet, so I really can't do anything with this category. The categories that I used, homework and tests, have weights of 0.25 and 0.5, so I'm going to add those up and get 0.75. And then finally, I'm going to add my 21.875 for my homework, my 38 from the tests, and I'm going to divide that total by 0.75, and this gives me an average of about 79.83. When I look at the grade book, a C is listed as 70.0 to 79.99. So I currently have a C. However, I also note I'm really close to a B, so I may choose to work a little bit harder, see if there's any extra credit, to try and raise that grade just that little bit more to get to a B. Now, if you want to go a little bit further, you can experiment with some what-if scenarios. So, for instance, you can use your current homework and test average and see what happens to your grade if you earned 100% on your final. What if you earned a 90%, and so on. Depending on how much time you want to spend, you can find out exactly what you need on the final to earn that A, B, or C. You can also calculate a maximum grade overall by replacing any unknown grades, any assignments you haven't done yet, with the maximum value. So all my remaining homeworks, all my remaining tests, all my remaining papers, I can insert 100% there to find out what my maximum grade is. If I really need an A in a class and I'm at that point where I can't earn an A anymore, that's going to be useful information for me in terms of going forward. Be very careful when you're transitioning from a number grade to a letter grade. Each instructor can have different rules on how they assign their letter grades. One teacher may consider an 89.5 an A, while the next requires a 90% to be an A. Pay very close attention to their rounding rules. That may be something that's less likely to be in the syllabus, so that may be something worth asking about.